Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Politics Unpacked, the podcast where we break down complex political topics into easy-to-digest insights. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most talked-about figures in modern politics, Donald Trump. Specifically, we'll be discussing the top 10 most notable policies from Trump's new term and providing a balanced analysis of their potential impact. Whether you're a staunch supporter, a vocal critic, or just someone trying to make sense of it all, this episode is for you. Let's get started. Policy 1. Immigration Reform 2.0. First on our list is Trump's revamped immigration policy. Building on his earlier term, the new policy includes stricter border security measures, increased funding for border wall construction, and a merit-based visa system. Trump claims this approach will prioritize skilled workers and protect American jobs. Supporters argue this policy ensures national security and reduces illegal immigration. Critics, however, fear it could exacerbate humanitarian issues at the border and reduce opportunities for family reunification. While the focus on merit-based immigration has its merits, the question remains, will it address the root causes of migration?
Policy 2. Tax cuts and economic stimulus. Next up, Trump's administration has introduced a second wave of tax cuts aimed at stimulating economic growth. The policy includes reducing corporate tax rates further and offering middle-class tax relief. Proponents claim these measures will spur job creation and strengthen the economy, particularly after the pandemic's economic fallout. However, detractors worry about the ballooning national debt and the possibility that benefits might disproportionately favor the wealthy. It's a classic debate over trickle-down economics versus fiscal responsibility. Policy 3. Healthcare overhaul. Healthcare is always a hot-button issue, and Trump's new term is no exception. His administration has introduced a plan to replace the Affordable Care Act with what they call the American Healthcare Freedom Plan. This policy aims to reduce premiums by increasing competition among insurers and expanding health savings accounts. While the promise of reduced costs appeals to many, critics argue that repealing the Affordable Care Act could leave millions uninsured. It's a complex issue with high stakes for everyday Americans.
Policy 4. Energy independence and deregulation. In the energy sector, Trump is doubling down on his goal of achieving full energy independence for the U.S. His administration has rolled back more environmental regulations to encourage domestic oil and gas production while promoting nuclear energy and clean coal. Supporters praise these measures as a way to secure energy security and create jobs in the energy sector. Environmentalists, however, warn about the long-term consequences of deregulation, particularly regarding climate change. Can economic growth and environmental stewardship coexist? Policy 5. Trade policy and tariff adjustments. Trump's trade policies have always been a cornerstone of his administration. This term, he's continuing with renegotiated trade deals and targeted tariffs to protect American industries. Supporters see these measures as a way to reduce trade deficits and bring manufacturing back to the U.S. However, critics point out that tariffs can lead to higher consumer prices and strained international relations. The global economy is interconnected, and protectionist policies often come with unintended consequences.
Policy 6. Strengthening military and national defense. National security remains a priority for Trump. His administration has increased defense spending, modernized military capabilities, and expanded the Space Force. While these initiatives aim to bolster U.S. dominance on the global stage, critics question the allocation of resources, especially in areas like the Space Force. Is this the best use of taxpayer dollars, or are there more pressing domestic issues to address? Policy 7. Education reform. Education is another area where Trump is making waves. His administration is pushing for expanded school choice through vouchers and increased support for charter schools. Advocates argue this approach empowers parents and fosters competition among schools, leading to better outcomes for students. Opponents, however, fear it could divert funding from public schools, widening the gap between affluent and disadvantaged communities. Education is the foundation of a nation's future, so getting this right is crucial. Policy 8. Criminal justice reform. In a surprising move, Trump has doubled down on criminal justice reform, building on the bipartisan successes of his previous term. This includes measures aimed at reducing recidivism, granting clemency to nonviolent offenders, and improving prison conditions. This policy has received praise from both sides of the aisle. However, critics argue that systemic issues like police reform and racial disparities in sentencing still need more comprehensive solutions.
Policy 9. Infrastructure investment. Trump's new infrastructure plan is ambitious, with proposals to invest heavily in roads, bridges, and broadband expansion. The goal is to modernize America's aging infrastructure while creating millions of jobs. While the focus on infrastructure is widely applauded, the challenge lies in funding. Critics are concerned about how these projects will be financed without further inflating the national debt. Can public-private partnerships fill the gap? Policy 10. Big Tech accountability. Finally, Trump is taking a tough stance on big tech companies. His administration is pushing for antitrust actions, increased regulation, and greater accountability for censorship on social media platforms. Supporters argue these measures are necessary to protect free speech and foster competition. On the other hand, opponents warn that overregulation could stifle innovation and raise questions about government overreach. Balancing freedom and fairness in the digital age is no easy task. So there you have it, the top 10 policies shaping Donald Trump's new term. Each of these initiatives has its champions and critics, and their outcomes will undoubtedly shape America's future. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Politics Unpacked. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.